The hospital hallway was cold and silent. Behind a closed office door, the voice of the administrator echoed sharply. "You think saving one man makes you a hero? You're done here, Claire. Pack your things." But just outside that room, in the trauma bay, a man was still alive, because she didn't wait for permission to save him. Nurse Claire Donnelly hadn't asked for insurance. She hadn't waited for forms or approvals. She saw a man bleeding to death and pressed her hands against an open artery. 6 hours later, that same hospital lobby would fall silent for a very different reason. 25 United States Marines were walking in, and they weren't there to fill out paperwork. It was a quiet Friday night in Lexington, Kentucky. The fluorescent lights at Fairwinds Memorial Hospital buzzed overhead. Families sat slouched near vending machines, faces tired, hope fading. But Claire moved through it all with calm purpose. At 32, with 8 years in trauma care, Claire Donnelly had seen more pain than most could imagine. Her navy blue scrubs were worn but proud, stained with iodine and traces of lives she had touched, some saved, some lost. Claire wasn't just any nurse. She was the senior triage nurse, the one new nurses looked up to, the one doctors trusted in a pinch. She came from a legacy of service. Her father, a Navy corpsman, had taught her something she never forgot. In a real emergency, your conscience must move faster than the rules. But lately, the rules were moving slower than ever. Under new management, Fairwinds had adopted a strict intake policy. No treatment, none, without insurance information and digital registration. Not even in emergencies. Claire had already been written up twice. The first time for treating a toddler with a severe allergic reaction. The second time, it was a woman with internal bleeding. Both would have died waiting. Now one more violation, and she'd be out for good. That night, Claire could feel the weight of it. Her coworker, Nancy Ellison, watched her every move. Nancy believed rules came before people. "If we all break the rules," she had told Claire once, "there's no system left." But Claire believed the opposite. Letting people suffer because of paperwork? That wasn't order, that was cruelty. At 11:47 p.m., the ER doors flew open. A man staggered in, holding his left arm, soaked in blood. His face was pale, his shirt drenched red. "Help," he whispered, collapsing against the front desk. Nancy stood up calmly and pointed to the intake window. "Sir, we need your insurance first." Claire's eyes narrowed. She didn't hesitate. "His pressure's crashing," she whispered. "That's arterial bleeding." Nancy blocked her. "He's not cleared, Claire. Don't make this worse." But Claire had already grabbed gloves and pressed hard into the man's wound. "What's your name?" she asked. "Walter," he murmured, barely conscious. Claire dragged him into trauma bay 2. Blood stained the floor, her scrubs, her hands. Dr. Langston rushed in. "For fluids. Get vitals. We're losing him." Claire didn't let go until Walter was in the operating room. Not for a second. But as soon as the crisis passed, Nancy was waiting, incident report in hand. By morning, Claire was called into the administrator's office. Dr. Douglas Hales sat behind a desk with HR beside him. "This is your third violation," he said coldly. "You treated a patient without proper registration." "He would have died," Claire replied. "That's not your decision to make." "It was mine to make in that moment," she said quietly. "Because your system isn't fast enough to save lives." Dr. Hale was unmoved. Claire knew what came next. She stood. "If this is it, then this is my last shift." And she walked out. Back in the break room, silence filled the air. Some nurses nodded to her. Others looked away. But then, someone shared the security footage, the moment Claire rushed to save Walter, while Nancy stood still. It spread through the staff, then the community, and soon, the entire city. The caption read, "One nurse broke the rules. One stopped her. You decide who did the right thing." Claire stayed home, unsure what to feel. Fired for saving someone? Was this justice? But she wasn't alone anymore. Her best friend Tina began collecting similar stories. Delays caused by the same policy. Elderly patients ignored, diabetics crashing in chairs, asthma patients gasping in silence. 42 cases, in just a few months. Then, a quiet man walked into the hospital. He wore a beige jacket and a VA pin. His name was Dr. Richard Kessler, a retired military doctor. "Where is Nurse Donnelly?" he asked softly. "I heard what she did." He addressed the staff. "In war, we treat first. Ask later. Rank, name, country, it doesn't matter. If they're bleeding, we help." And now, in one of the most advanced hospitals in America, a nurse is punished for doing just that. That's not right. His words hit like thunder. Local news picked up the story. Then state news. Then national. Walter Granger, now healing, spoke from his hospital bed. "She didn't know me. She didn't ask for insurance. She just helped. That's what a nurse is supposed to do." By Thursday, the Kentucky Nurses Coalition issued a statement. Rigid rules are costing lives. Claire Donnelly is not the problem, she's the example. But the biggest moment came next. A black SUV pulled up to the hospital. A tall, proud Marine stepped out. Her medals gleamed in the sun. It was Captain Megan Granger, Walter's daughter. She walked straight to the podium in front of news cameras. Her voice was steady, powerful. "My father is alive today because Nurse Claire Donnelly chose honor over rules. She didn't ask for rank ID or proof. She saw a human being and acted. That's what we call courage." She turned, saluted the flag, and walked away. The video went viral overnight. Fairwinds Hospital doubled down the next day. Dr. Hale stood before reporters. "We regret that Nurse Donnelly acted without authorization. Her employment is now terminated." But the story didn't end. It had just begun. That afternoon, 17 nurses called in sick. By nightfall, over half the ER staff had walked out. Protest signs filled the front lawn. "People over protocol. Reinstate Claire. Nurses save lives, not policies." Then came the moment no one expected. 25 Marines arrived in formation, dressed in ceremonial blues. They didn't speak. They didn't chant. They simply stood, shoulder to shoulder, inside the hospital lobby. At their center stood Captain Megan Granger. "We're not here for politics," she said. "We're here to honor the woman who saved one of our own." Tina called Claire. "You need to come. Now." Claire walked in through the back. Past the break room. Past the place where she saved Walter. And into the lobby. Every Marine turned and saluted. Walter was there too, thin but standing, supported by 2 Marines. He hugged her tight. "You didn't see my medals," he whispered. "But you saw I was dying. That's what a real nurse does. That's what a human being does." From upstairs, Dr. Hale watched in silence. But it wasn't over yet. Another figure stepped forward. A man in a blue suit with a Marine lapel pin. "I'm Congressman Aaron Whitfield," he said. "Retired USMC." He stood beside Claire and addressed the cameras. "I'm calling for a full investigation into hospital policies that put red tape before human life. Claire Donnelly did what every nurse should be allowed to do, save a life without fear of punishment." The crowd cheered. The country listened. 2 days later, the hospital board met. Tensions were high. Some wanted to apologize. Others wanted to move on. But it was Dr. Patricia Monroe, the board chair and a Navy veteran, who said, "This isn't just about one nurse. It's about the soul of this hospital." They voted unanimously. Claire was reinstated. Not just as a nurse, but promoted to Director of Emergency Nursing Operations. But Claire didn't say yes right away. She looked Dr. Monroe in the eyes. "I don't want a title unless I can fix the system." Monroe nodded. "Then let's fix it together." A week later, Claire stood in front of a packed auditorium, patients, nurses, doctors, veterans, and students. She took the microphone. "I didn't fight for my job. I fought because a man was dying. From now on, this hospital will have a nurse-led council to review emergency policies. No nurse will ever again have to choose between following the rules and saving a life." Applause thundered across the room. The hospital renamed the ER to the Walter Granger Emergency Wing. At the ribbon cutting, Walter stood beside Claire, hand in hand. No words needed. In the months that followed, Claire helped rewrite triage policies across 19 hospitals. She launched a foundation for nursing scholarships and helped protect nurses from retaliation when acting in good faith. But she never sought fame. She declined TV interviews. When asked to speak at Nurses Week, she replied, "Give the mic to the nurse holding someone's hand at 3 a.m. That's where the real leadership is." 5 years later, Claire walked the ER halls, now chief nursing officer. But she still wore simple scrubs. Still held IVs. Still watched over patients. One evening, a patient arrived with no ID, no insurance. A young nurse looked unsure, then looked at Claire. Claire just nodded. The nurse moved without hesitation, guiding the patient into care. Claire smiled softly, stepped into the supply closet, and whispered to herself, "Sometimes you have to break the rules to be a hero." Because thanks to her, one rule was rewritten, and one life became a movement.